Tauya tadzoka tagweda nyasi musosvondo ndakakunyepa indini sangwadzisi piwe kachinza mapfumo nyasi tauya nomurendo wedu tiri kukumirirai mupinde tiri kuona vanhu vatanga kupinda kanoyo sangwadzi moro michel titaurire kuti uri kutiteera uri kupi kuti tizive tiri kudaidza vanhu vese vari kuzimbabwe vari kulondon vari kuno kucanada vari kunew york kutoronto. We get some people vanotiteera panapa kuaustralia vamwe vari kunew zealand saka pindai mutinyepe kuti muri kupi muchinyora kamwe kuti sangwadzi tapinda ndini nhingi ndiri kwakati michel watitaurira kuti uri kuedmonton ndoziva kuti uri kuedmonton saka rega tite few minutes vanhu vachimbopinda vachitaurira kuti vari kupi tiri kudaidzai mese kwese nokwamutoko mabuja ayo moroiwa naamhanduwe nanamoyo pindai ndini sangwadzi ndagweda pano pakanoiwa nyaya broadcast inyu yandinokuunzirai every weekend tichitaura nezvinhu zvakasiyana-siyana tikuinzirai varendo vanobva nzvimbo dzakasiyana-siyana vanotitaura nezvinhu zvakasiyana-siyana dzimwe nguva tichindoentertainiwa navo vamwe vanobvawo kwamutoko vamwe vanobva kwamutoko asi ndaanasahwira wedu tinovadaidza pano kuti tinzwe kuti chii chiri kuitika. Pindai ndiri kuona vanhu vairi vari kutiteera michel ari kuteera vari kupinda vari kuuya ndizvo zvatinenge tichida. Nyasi ndaiva nemurendo wedu shamwari yangu kwemakore Christine Nyirenda-Chimuka anonge achitinyepa zvaari kuita vachiri kuziva aiteererawo tv kubvira kuma1980 peno muchiri kuzviziva heno peno makanga amwe achazviziva kuti muchazviziva chere kuti Christine ndiani. She's a veteran ZTV broadcaster from way back in the 80s. kunotati ndakamutsvaga ndikamubata ndikati Christine uya paikanoiwa nyaya toda kumboswera tichitandara nevamwe wedu newe uchitinyepa Christine Nyirenda, where is she now? Toda kugozivawo kamwe kuti makore apfuura anga akari kamusikana kechidiki ndiri kuona ayo akachiri kugeza kumeso kwokuchiri kundooneka kuti pane kasikana tichiona kuti achiri kuite kwamakore awanda apfuura kubvira bapa akajoina ZTV. Saka toda kuziva kuti what happened to her? Christine taimuona every evening achititaurira the Met newscaster achitaura kuti kwakaita semvura iri kunaya chakati. Saka toda kumboti tiite tikurukure nani naChristine Nyirenda-Chimuka nhasi zuva ranhasi. Christine, imbopinda mudariro umhorese vateereri kuti ndiwe ani uri kuita nezvei quickly tichazokupinza mudariro nekuti mutupo wako chii kwamutoko ndozvatinoita kana tine vaenzi vanonzi warendo kwamutoko naika. So ndiwe murendo wedu tokupinza mumba toti kuti tokumutsa kuti kanoiwa nyaya kuti tokukwazisai my friends. So that's what it means muchibuja. Saka tiri kuda kukukanudza tokupinza mumba wotinyepa zita rako tokupa mvura yokumwa wotinyepa mutupo wako handiti chimweresa vari vateereri.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Spiwe. Now, ndikutaya kufunga kuti tinotaura chirudzi kuti
tinotaura zvese chirungu.
Goda here chimutoko chenyika.
Aiwa, you don't have to speak Chibuja, so unongotaura whatever you can, chirungu, chizezuro, whatever, chikwazisa vaenzi.
Okay, it's a warm welcome to you all. I am Christine Nyirenda-Chimuka. A lot of people know me as Christine Nyirenda-Chimuka. But my proper name, Yepa Chitupa, or Yepa birth certificate, is actually Christina And somehow through the years, I managed to be called Christine. So I think as the years went by, there's always that Damascus moment. And I think after you turn 40, you kind of realize, you know what, who exactly am I? So I am Christina Nyirenda-Chimuka, and ndinoira Nyati. And I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to chat with Spiwe, who I knew when I was still a little girl. And, you know, it's amazing just to catch up and touch base again after such a long time. Thank you.
Aiwa, tinozvitenda ndizvo zvatinoda kana tichimbodzoka kumakore akapfuura kudhara tichiti ava vanhu ndo wakati encouragewo wachiti empower tichiri vana vadiki, ndimi muchiri kuti vasikanawo tudiki muchipinda mumedia. Sispiwa tiri kucity of Harare. Asi zvinondifadza kana ndichikuona muchiite makura muchiitawo other things, kana tichiita go back kuti what happened makore esa apfuura. Aiwa, tinozvitenda. Tiri kuona tarisai mukusha, tapinda sangwa dzamoroi wamukusha, baba mukuru, Michelle na Mildred, tapano sangwa dzikanoi. Aiwa, that's nice. Aiwa, ndakuigirai murende sekutaura kwandaita. Nyaya iri pano sekuti vapinda iye zvino vanga vasina kutinzwa patatanga. Tauya naChristine Nyirenda. Christina she was one of the veteran TV newscasters for ZBC back in the 80s. Muchaziva makore aya tichangotorawo nyika yedu kwakune vanhu vatema washoma wanga vachisenza kuZBC kubroadcast. Inini ndakabvaonako pandakatanga kusenza nchibva kuuniversity. My first job was ZBC, the producer kuZBC 1981. That's 1981. That's a long time ago. Asi makore akazopfuura pane vazhinji wakaita go through broadcasting, wakaenda kunoita newscasters, wana Dokas Chibanda. Amshiva muchiri kuziva vanhu vese ivavo wataiteerera vachitaura kuZBC. Christine, iwewe wakajoina ZBC I think my 83, 84, if I'm not, I'm not sure. But anyway, tell us, wanga uri mudiki, you're really like from high school, and how did you get into music?
Actually, I was still in junior school. I was probably in grade 6, and Kubulawayo, where I was, or Kobulawayo as they call it, where we used to stay, one of my sister's friends, my sister Josephine, who's also now in Canada, one of her friends was a presenter for a program called Kids, which was a kids program, Montrose studio. So she asked, she said, "Oh, I'm looking for somebody to help me on the show." So I said, "Okay, why not?" Because I've always loved to speak anyway in public. So I went on board, and I used to help her to kind of produce, or more or less probably a production assistant on the show, where I'll be helping just to make sure that the program goes on okay. If it means calling up for the children to come for the show, and just making sure that everything is in place. And then obviously also I was given a chance here and there to speak on the program. So that really helped. And my passion and my love for media actually grew from there. Because as I mentioned, I used to speak in public. I started speaking in public when I was 7. I used to read the Bible in church when I was 7. So you can imagine a long time ago, there was all these big podiums, and they would put like a little stool for me to stand on because I'd be so little. But I mean, I loved it. I was also in the choir. I just used to do anything as long as I could stand in front and speak, whether it was at school, whether it was in plays, whether it was at assembly. But that was just me. And then I said to myself, I think I want to be in the media or in public relations. So that's basically how it started, and it went on from there.
I hope okay, that's fantastic, because at least you know what, Rakaku prepare all these little opportunities we had, wearing a Bible in front of the public. It's not every kid who can do that, because Mumano Badrita melt down Ipapo. I mean, and doing production with someone and which one
Yes.
it can be done, it's good. And when you finally came to ZBC in the 80s to do the Met, you used to do Met newscasting.
Yes,
That's when I got to
yes,
know you, and I think I'd already
absolutely.
left ZBC myself.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
mhm.
So
Tell
that
us
was
a bit more about
actually,
that.
yeah, late 80s, early 90s.
Mhm.
So prior to that, I had been found by ZBC, I guess, on a program called the Surf Have a Go Show, which was with a wonderful gentleman, Alan Riddell. So
Alan used
Alan
to be my
was,
friend. Good
yeah,
old Alan. Yeah.
so Alan used to be in the hospitality industry,
Mhm.
but he loved TV and he loved just organizing events. So Alan then said, "Look, I want Christina to come on board and assist me on a program called the Surf Have a Go Show, which was basically a game show, a reality game show." I mean,
Mhm.
I guess those days we didn't know them, but it was the Surf Have a Go Show, and then there was the Surf Pick a Box Show. So it was
Uh-huh.
two similar games, but literally from, if I can say, different lines, different sides of the track,
Mhm.
if that makes any sense. So the Surf Have a Go show was the, each knows, if I can put it that way.
Younger Yemanu's Brigade, yeah.
Yamano's Brigade,
Uh-huh.
even the games we did, picking up an apple with your in the water and stuff with your mouth.
Mhm.
So that's how I basically got back on track with TV, even though I'd been doing a lot of TV stuff here and there.
Mhm.
But then when I came to Harare, and then I really didn't want to do the news that much. Also, it was very difficult to get into the news at that time
Mhm.
because there were people like Anna Vera,
Mhm. Mhm.
Anna Noreen Welsh. So these people were all much more experienced, more mature people than I
Mhm.
was. So for me, when they said, "Okay, do you want to do the weather report, the weather forecast?" I was like, "Okay, why not? It's
Mhm.
it's still a chance to shine on TV."
True.
So I would go on and do the weather forecast. So I was your weather girl. But
How
also,
old were you then? How old were you
I,
then when
I
you
was
started?
just over 18. I had just turned
Yeah,
18 when I
I know.
moved to Harare. I moved to Harare when I was 19. So from about 18, I came to Harare from Lawayo, left my family, and decided to make it in the big bad Harare world. But my big sister was here, so it was easy enough. So I stayed with her. And
Okay.
so, yes, I did the weather report or the weather forecast. But
Mhm.
also during that time, as NBC, they also asked me to do a number of other programs. There was like your morning shows. I did the morning shows. There was a few lifestyle programs. I guess these days you'd call them lifestyle and beauty, lifestyle and
Mhm.
home, your DIY, your gardening, your cookery shows. So I
Mm.
would be the hostess for that or the presenter for that. And it was amazing because I got to meet so many different people, and it just opened a lot of doors for
Of
me as
course.
well. And TV was always in me, and speaking was always in
Mhm.
me. I joined different organizations such as Toastmasters to be able to
Mm.
speak, and then obviously I then found a full-time job. That's when the TV kind of went down,
Mhm.
because I then got a job with a tourism organization, which was Rainbow Tourism at that time. And they were just moving on from, they were a government organization, but it had
Mhm.
now privatized. So I became their PRO,
Mhm.
PR executive in their two hotels in Victoria Falls. That's where I then had to have my proper, full-time job. So obviously then at that time TV had to take a backstage,
Mhm.
because then the studios were only in Harare and Bulawayo. So
Mhm.
there was no way I could be on TV when I was
Mhm.
in the Vic Falls. But still, my love for just meeting up people, I used to organize events. I mean, I always used to, and obviously the hotels used to love it. I used to have different events for women, particularly,
Mhm.
because I
Mhm.
just felt that a lot of the times women lacked self confidence
Mhm.
and the self esteem. So I would invite women over to the hotels. I would train them in grooming etiquette. and just just soft skills, because I figured that a lot of women, they didn't have that exposure. Even if you're talking about coming into a hotel, sometimes people came into the hotel, they didn't know which fork to use, which knife to use, or how to even order. So I'd just get women from all over Vic Falls. At first they would come, eventually even people were coming from as far afield as Wange. They would come. I'd say, okay, on a Saturday afternoon we're having this 3-hour talk, and people will come, and then there'll be food, there'll be drinks, and then after that, say, we then invite the men to come over, and so that they can at least see what the women have learned. So it was really an exciting time, starting off. And it's always interesting as well, starting off something anew, because when we went to Vic Falls, the Vic Falls hotels had been there, but they had been run down, and then they were now just refurbished. So basically, Rainbow Tourism was a new kid on the block.
Yeah.
And it seems like I just love to do things when people are starting off. So that was really exciting. Yeah.
It's kind of throws me back to public relations. When I first met you, I think I was a PG. I was PR officer to PG, and then of course there was City of Harare, and that's when I got to know most of you younger girls, and those were still in ZBC, because I had been there, and so it really was an exciting time in the 80s and 90s. I mean, in public relations and the media, it really. When Alan Riddell, you remember the Mayor's Christmas Cheer Fund? That's how I got to know.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
It was fabulous, and if you were creative and you enjoy public relations, it was a different kind of PR than here. Like you're saying, you would invite the women to come, and you spend the afternoon talking to them about grooming and deportment and what to do. And sometimes you do with the guys who are not saying the organization. It really was a fantastic time. I don't know if you remember Sharon Jobo. She's a fellow. Yeah, she's in Toronto. She said we really need union ladies, and she always follows my program. And I also follow her podcast. Yeah, I know it. So we work together, and really, it would be great for us to get together with other fellow juniors, those people who were my journalists and who were in the media. It would be fantastic.
That time. Absolutely. I think there's just so much that we can do. And when you mentioned the Mayor's Christmas Cheer Fund, I remember, I mean, it was a production. It just wasn't something small. It was a massive production. And
let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you how it started, because I was the PR manager at City of Harare, and we'd been raising money for City of Harare for charity organization. Then Alan Riddell and Stan Higgins, they approached the mayor and myself and said, we want to help you, Nakiki Divaris, to make it bigger. And we used to make, like maybe 20,000, and we'll give to my organizations are around. I know my charitable organization, one Emerald Hills, and those kind of things. And then the mayor opened up, and so we were working with them. They invited other people who were in private sector on a Coca-Cola, and it became a production, like you say. First time we raised $1 million. Can you imagine? It was $1 million dollars, but still. If we raised 20,000, it was a lot. And then all of a sudden, we had $1 million. It became huge. And I think now, years later, us who are Black people in Zimbabwe, who have had exposure in public relations and corporate communications, and like Sharon is saying, all of us, if we got together and we had a project, we could raise money, we could do amazing things, because I mean, it's years later, 40 years later, hey, we are in charge. We are the Black people who can do things, and that's a good idea. We'll see what happens, right?
What happens, absolutely.
You told me what you were doing from when you started John ZBC, and then moving forward, where you are now in PR, you're no longer in broadcasting, and you were working full time, and of course you were growing. You got married, you had children, and blah blah blah. Life happens, right?
Life happens.
Yes, life happens, and then what? I know right now you're working on something amazing. Looking forward to 3K TV, which is an independent television. I know the minister of information, Monica Mchangwa.
Yes,
She
Monica
announced,
Mchangwa.
she announced that they wanted to have independent broadcast stations, and floated
Yes.
it out. So I think, tell us a bit more how 3K TV came into play, and yes, what you're doing, and what is the idea behind all these, I would like to say, independent television station. It depends how independent are you. Go ahead, tell us what Risa Pachoto Wega 3K TV. Who is 3K TV, and tell us.
Well, 3K TV is, as you said, an independently owned commercial TV station. And 3K TV is the first independently owned television station in Zimbabwe. So if you all remember, ZBC was the only TV station for over 60 years, counting, whenever TV started in Zimbabwe, in Rhodesia, whatever you want to call it. So 3K TV, and obviously there were one or two other stations that did come on, but they never seemed to have stayed on and didn't come on for very long. But a few years back, the government then decided that there was a time to actually come up with more TV stations to open up the airwaves, so that it wouldn't just be ZBC, but there'll be other TV stations on board. So I think it must have been about 4 years ago. This thing started coming out that there were going to be other TV stations. So people had to get ready. So the people from Jester Media, who are the owners of 3K TV, Jester Media Services, we own the Financial Gazette, and then we also have a major shareholding in ANZ, or Associated Newspapers Zimbabwe, which is the one that owns the Daily News and the Daily News on Sunday. So they called a few of us, I think there were about 4 of us, in fact 3 of us, who have media experience. There was myself, and then there's Emmanuel Nyamaidenga and Danstan Dalama, who's an engineer. Danstan was also at ZBC. So they called us and they spoke to us and they said, look guys, we want to bid for the TV stations when government eventually announces that people can bid. So we then started working, and this was all basically, I mean, it was pie in the sky, because the government had not yet really announced that there was going to be any TV stations, or they were looking for TV stations. So we started doing our groundwork, trying to figure out how do we come up with this TV station. Obviously, it's easy enough because the Jester Media already in the newspaper business, but still it's not easy. So then eventually the government then said, those who want to bid, send through your bids. So we sent through our bid, and this is like documents that will be this big, and lots of work that went into there. And eventually we were then called to for the tender. So we had to have an interview, which was live streamed on Zoom with the whole of Zimbabwe, or the whole of the world watching, as you're asked so many questions. And so there were 14 companies that were shortlisted. And of those, they were only looking for 6 licenses. So we had our time, we answered the questions, and the government was only giving out what is called free to air and full spectrum channels. So full spectrum basically means that the channel has to show all genres of programming. So you have to have your drama, your drama, your series, your sitcoms, your realities, your talk, your news, your current affairs, your children's programming, documentaries, everything. So the government wanted to see if we have the capability to be able to do that. And so we managed to go through our rigorous, it was really rigorous. I mean, it was almost 2 hours sitting there and being bombarded with different questions, and they'll ask you different questions. So you've got to know the Broadcasting Authority, statutes, everything. You have to know why the government is saying you must have 40% content must come from independent producers. You can't do everything. You have to have a certain percentage from independent producers. A certain
Where was the
percentage
other
should
60?
be
Where was the other
international.
60? Where if
Well,
40% from independent?
40% will be from independent, and then normally then they'll say about 10 to 15% will be regional or international. Normally though, regional goes into your local. So basically, so we'll say 10% is international, then the rest, the 50%, we have to do in-house. So it means that the in-house capability has to be there. So in-house, which means I've got my team of producers, editors, graphic designers, everybody working on different programs. So that's how we came about. So end of 2020, November 2020, the 6 companies that won the licenses were announced. That was end of 2020. And so it was announced, it was around about the 24th of November. So that was really at the end of the year. And I started working for Jester Media, well, for 3K TV from January 2021. That's when we started. And we started off just the 4 of us, myself, the MD, the station manager, and the engineer. So it was 4 people who just went on a limb. And the company just said, you know what, you 4 are going to make sure that we go on air. And
But
so we were a
did
bit
you have
relaxed.
the equipment? Did you have the equipment? Because,
No.
So how were you going to do the productions?
We had no equipment. So everything had to start from scratch. And I mean literally scratch. First of all, the first few months, we didn't even have an office. We didn't even have a studio. We were squatting, as I like to call it, in the Financial Gazette offices. So each person just managed to get somewhere to sit, and then everything was now being, just going through the plans of how are we going to do this. So trying to get people from different countries, from South Africa, from Europe, from the United States, to try and see, okay, what type of equipment do we need? And because it has to be different from ZBC, unfortunately, I mean, that's the only benchmark we had, but it had to be different from ZBC. So it meant that even the equipment, we now use what is called 4K equipment, whereas which really brings about high definition cameras. So all that, so we worked on all that. We started working on the programming, and then I had to think, I came up with a schedule, a 24-hour schedule, and I'm thinking, okay, what programs can I put on? Because remember, you're basically the whole department. One person is the whole department. Until
So yourself, you were the head of programming.
Yes, I'm the head of programming there. So initially, I was the only person in programming. And just to think, okay, what do we need? How are we going to do it? So we got a bit relaxed because we had thought we were going to go on air end of 2022, maybe beginning of 2023. Because the government, when they gave us the licenses, they said at least 18 months before you go on air. You should go on air within 18 months. So we had thought, okay, fine, we've got a bit of time. And then, boom, towards November last year, my chief executive officer called me into his office together with the MD and the general manager, and they're like, guys, we have a big deal with DSTV, or multi-choice as other people call it, and we have to go on air in February. So this basically gave us February this year. So that basically gave us 2 months to go on air. And we had been faffing around because we didn't even have a whole lot of stuff on yet. You know, we were like, we're going on air a little bit later on. So we're very relaxed and
but
planning everything.
Equipment.
Equipment, little by little. You know, Zimbabwe is not an easy place to do business. You know, you can't just say I've got
money, I'm going to go out shopping.
Yes, I've got 100,000 United States dollars. I mean, TV equipment is not cheap.
No,
You're looking at
no.
more than 3 million
Mm-hmm.
United States dollars
Mm-hmm.
to get kitted out, and we're still counting. So when they said that, we then now had to be serious, and we started then canning programs and making sure. And then by December, the programming department was now on almost 30 people. So can you imagine, from the beginning of the year, one person? Mid-year, we got new people starting on the 1st of July. Then I had, I think, seven people in my department. This is just the programming department. And then technical also had like maybe 7 people. But right now we're looking at just over 100 employees.
You've got 100 staff.
Yes, we now have 100 staff. So
That,
it's
this is amazing. I mean, I worked in broadcasting myself, and I'm just trying to think, how did you do it? I mean, it's not like this live stream where you can just do like, hey, this is my little office. I can't even
No.
tell anything. I just like, okay, I call you, come and and you produce. Oh, okay, that's how it is now. Things are all digital and it's online, and you can whip up together something overnight, and tomorrow you go live, and it can work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's different. But let go. I'm really impressed with all the progress. Yes, I might. And in 2020 you were one of the Magaita bid, and and started all these things, and you are ready. We'll talk about where you are now going forward. But what role has government got to play in all this? Because I mean, a lot of people say, okay, it's all good. And I read some of my comments. They are not different. They are not different from ZBC. And why should we believe that you are any different?
Well, our editorial policy is such that as we like to use the phrase that we are middle of the road. We say it as it is. And I think it has also been seen even in the last month. Well, what have we been on air for? 7 weeks now. In the past 7 weeks, even our news is apolitical. We will show Chamisa. We will show Mozora. We will show Mnangagwa. So we are not saying we are just showing one person. So even when there was the campaigns in the past few weeks, we had by-elections. People were actually surprised because they saw Chamisa at a rally, and this was on our news. They saw Mondora at a rally, and this was on our news. Whereas ZBC will obviously not show them. They might mention them, but they will never actually really show them. So that is the difference that we are making. Obviously, I mean, this is Zimbabwe. We're saying we're not taking sides. We want to show things as they are. And our policy as well is we are saying we want to show the Johnny in every story. What do I mean by the Johnny in every story? The ordinary person. So you will see, even when we are doing news, we like to ask the ordinary person things that pertain to their lives. I'd rather go to the man on the street first before I even go to speak to the mayor about something, because it's the ordinary person that is getting the services of the city council. And the mayor can say whatever he wants, the city council spokesperson can say whatever he wants, but when the person on the street says it, it makes more sense. So our editorial policy is to look at who is the Johnny and what is the Johnny saying in any given situation. So even as we speak, we've got a very interesting program called Vantage. Vantage is on a Thursday evening, and on Vantage, our chief editor-in-chief is the one who actually interviews, and myself as well. So we take turns to interview people on that one. And 2 weeks ago, he interviewed Chris Mutsangwa. And then last week, he interviewed Douglas Monzora. And then the following week, he's probably going to interview somebody from Triple C, from CCC. So we are talking about real issues. Each person must have their say. We are not saying it's only just one-sided. So I'd like to say to anybody, if you are able to download, whether you've got DSTV on your internet, download and watch our news. Our news, it's 19:30 hours every evening, and we really just trying to make it, give each person their story. There was like this past week, the one that made me laugh. In fact, I was reading the news that day, and I almost did a giggle on the screen because there was this guy. He was very passionate, because there's been talk about it's the political parties, the opposition parties coming together as a grouping and having only one candidate for 2023 for the presidency. And so this one guy was standing there and he's like, huh? Why should Chamisa do this? I'm fan of which ega. For what reason? And he was so passionate about it, and it was even very comical the way he was doing it. And there I was in the studio and I'm listening to this thing and I'm like, oh, then the next thing I'm on air. But I'm really happy that we are on air. We are not perfect. By no means are we perfect yet. But you know what? We are perfecting as we go.
Because this is fairly new. Kwakamboita Joy TV back when, I think it's in the 90s and whatever.
Yes.
It kind of fizzled out without any, I don't know what happened, but for a long, long, long time, really, we haven't had any independent. Someone is asking, Zoe is asking, what's the name of the station? Is 3K TV, right?
The station is 3, and the number 3, and then a K and TV. So 3K TV. The best of Zimbabwe, because we believe as well. That's our tagline. We believe in bringing out the best of Zimbabwe. So we have different programming. I mean, there's one program I can think of called Tunsiansia. Tunsiansia is a Nambian word which is spoken in Kunabinga. So we're just talking about different things. So sometimes you'll have Enganga. Sometimes you'll have about people talking about these days there's all this Njuzu stories in Zimbabwe. We'll be talking about that, and everything.
You speak in the language. It's kind of populous and specifically. Is it kind of like Kanoi Wanyai? Because that was the idea with Kanoi Wanyai. Munotaura in Nambia.
Yes, we do have a presenter there's an amazing young man. He speaks like 6-7 different languages. So we managed to get him on board. So whether you want to speak Nyanja, whether you want to speak Chambia, whether you want to speak Ndebele, Shona, Tonga, he's there. And so eventually, obviously, as we grow, we would love to have like a footprint in all those areas. Right now in all those communities, in all those communities where we can have somebody giving us information and news from Binga or from Cholocho or from Lupane or from Kwahonde, or Kwamtoko.
Don't forget Mutoko, don't forget Kanoi Wanyai. We are there. We're not competition, but we are small, but we've got a following.
Yep, absolutely. But it's really amazing, and I'm so excited. And I really covet everyone. Just tell us, even when we make our blips and blunders, but it's work in progress.
Sure.
And I remember speaking to our shareholder the one time, and I was saying, oh, why don't we start a little bit later on? And he said to me, Christina, one thing we need to do is we must always strive to keep going, because if we wanted to perfect everything, we wouldn't go on air for the next 5 years.
No,
because we'll be wanting to perfect. So I think
life happens. Things could happen, and you'll be back to where you started. You got to keep moving, one foot in front of the other. That's right.
Absolutely. And just being in partnership with Multi-Choice DSTV has just been such a blessing, because those
Why
guys
is it an advantage to you? How is it an advantage to you?
They are very particular. I mean, they've been on air for how many years? For 40 odd years. And for them, they know how to do things properly. So with DSTV, you don't just wake up and say, today I'm showing such and such a program. All that has to be planned. There's the need for planning. And then they also train us as well. So they've got all sorts of master classes. And those master classes, we actually also ask like our independent producers who are doing on our behalf to come on as well. So even just learning how to make sure that the camera is facing a certain way, You know,
Yes.
it's so important because they'll say, you know what, don't do shots from this angle or from that angle. Whereas any producer will just say, oh, well, you know, it will just show.
They are
It will
strict.
show.
They've got certain
They are
standards
so
that they
strict.
have. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
So
when we
somebody might
started,
say, Mhm.
when some of us started in broadcasting, that it was something else because they had certain standards which were followed. And back
Exactly.
in the 80s, ZTV was amazing. I mean, you know, tell people now, they can't believe it. It really, really was something else. And what their expectations, well, I don't know about now, but I mean, then was completely different. Completely
Well,
different.
I think also for us coming on board now has actually made ZBC realize that, you know what, yeah, so they're also trying. I think they're really trying.
Well, but you know what? What's your competition and so they gotta wake up and because now broadcasting has changed. There is where you are, the former way standard way where you have to go in studio and whatever. But there are lots of podcasts where if you can't deliver, people can spend the whole day by YouTube listening to other broadcasters and through my podcast with amazing content. If people don't wake up and step up, the challenges out there are so huge. And once all these people, my podcast, if they get people to sponsor them, you know what? There's a problem right there, even yourself. Okay, while we're at, talk to us about Come Alive. I'm looking forward to that. You've got a program.
Well,
yeah,
I've got a program called Kalife, and Kalife. Basically, because there's this thing in Zim where if you're living well, you're living Kalife. So it's a program where I invite, or rather, I go to people's homes and just see what makes them tick. So influential people, the rich, the famous, and just to inspire others. So it has really been very difficult because a lot of people in Zimbabwe, they are very private.
Yes.
And also because of issues that come with flaunting your wealth. Yeah, with flaunting your wealth. So people are not too keen on the whole idea. I mean, if it was South Africa, I wouldn't have space for people, you know, because people would want to be on TV. But Zimbabwe is really, really difficult. And
why do you think that is so? Do you think people will start asking, how did you suddenly get that kind of wealth amidst all these struggles and poverty? I can see that. I mean, I can see
Yeah, that's the thing here. So I'm really finding it difficult right now because people, once you tell them I want to come to your house, everybody's like, no.
But have you canned enough? Have you canned any for the program?
No, there's not that much, to tell you the truth. I mean, if anybody out there knows somebody who would love to come on the show, please just let me know, because I'm actually saying to myself, you know what, maybe let me shelve it for the rest of the season and then start canning for the next season once I'm settled, because it's really difficult.
My suggestion, maybe you can revamp it, because it's like in your face when you say Kalife. It's like the rich and the famous, and it's like, like when they used to have pads. What's that thing called when people go to people's homes and see? It's like in your face. Maybe you can revamp it and come up with a different way of getting into it. I do know that Zimbabwe, celebrities, they really like to flaunt. Yeah. But ukaenda kune vanhu chava nedzimba dzinoshamisa dzinotyisa, and I know they're there. Maybe someone is saying maybe you can take it to rural folk who are living Kalife for rural standards, also consider diaspora community. We are Zimbos too. You could do that, but the problem will be filming and for you to get the life of these people who are elsewhere. But I like the idea yatarwa Sharon iyo yekuma rural areas. Do you know some
rural areas
who are living Kalife?
Absolutely.
And people are not quick to say Makaba, because one kind of like made their money through some dubious ways, they are in the city. But people in the rural
Absolutely.
area, they can tell you, you know what, I built this home, I'm a rural business person, or I'm a farmer, and this is how I live.
Yes.
Maybe go
Yes.
that way. You can easily, I can help you with some of the people I know, maybe
Absolutely.
they'll agree. If you get 10 people, if you can 10, that would be interesting. It's
Yes,
a good
that would
start.
be perfect. That
Yeah.
would be great. I mean, my very first guest was Dr. Guramatunu. So Solomon is just an amazing man,
He
you
is.
know.
He is.
And he had us at his home for literally
Mhm.
the whole day, instead of
It's
just a few
amazing, Auntie.
hours. Very hospitable.
Yeah.
The whole team were like, this man, and he has so much, and yet he's so humble, and he
Yeah.
managed to spend time with us. So
But you
really,
see,
it's
with him, it's not dubious. People know where he got his money.
exactly.
It's straightforward. So there is no akaba Maria Solomon, akaba Maria. He made his money through his business, and so
Through
that's
his
even easier
business,
for him to,
exactly.
yeah. Mhm.
Exactly. No, but
Oh,
I'm really looking forward. So really, I mean, if you are on air, and we are not really on YouTube or social media. We're on social media, but we just show a glimpse or promos. We're not
mhm.
showing full programs
Yeah.
on social media, obviously for obvious reasons, because we want to make our reach grow
Mhm.
on air first, and then we
Yeah.
just show snippets on social media. So 3K TV Zim on Facebook, on
Mhm.
Twitter, on Instagram, we are there. And we really just want people to come on board and
Mhm.
take this journey with us, which is
Mhm.
really exciting. Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm excited to see you grow and help kushika pawawa ears. This is fantastic, and we always like some of us we support women journalists who rise, and to see where
Absolutely.
you are from where you started off, and
Mhm.
it's amazing. And I think this opportunity, we are small podcast, but we to do on Facebook and YouTube. So
Mhm.
anyone who wants to listen to what's happening with Christine Nyirenda, they will listen. But she's got about 3K TV, and so some might not have known kuti kune 3K TV, an independent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So on that score, I am very pleased. I was going to ask you something. Um, who have been your role models from the time here when you were little like that, and getting into media and what and all this stuff, getting public relations and getting into production and all that stuff. This is interesting. Who were some of those people who held your hands in the process?
Well, I think in terms of probably PR and also the media, PR was obviously you. I mean, I admired you. I'd sit there and I'm like, this woman, you know. I,
Whoa!
I,
Thank
you
you.
you were, and then we have people like Ana Busi Chindove.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
think the way Busi carries herself even up to now,
Yeah.
when you see her, you can just see that this is a woman who's grounded, very grounded.
Mhm, mhm.
And I have some media friends. There's June Muchemenyi. Well, she's now June Muchemenyi Nazare. She's a brilliant journalist, as well. And there are other people like in PR as well. There was Precious Chitapi. Precious
Mhm.
was like my boss at RTG, and she was
Yes.
just amazing, amazing woman. And then like now as well, as I move on, I look even at people in other fields. Like there's Gloria Zaranyika, who's with Old Mutual. She's somebody who's I look up to, because
Mhm,
she's going places. She's doing so much. So
mhm,
yeah, in terms of Zim, that's probably that area. But I'm sure
mhm,
everybody then will say, oh, what about overseas and stuff?
mhm,
And
mhm,
yeah, I mean, I can say Oprah, when I
mhm,
look at
mhm,
her life and I'm thinking,
mhm.
okay, how did she get to where she is? So it's always, but as far as I'm concerned, it's also always a step at a time. A step
Exactly.
at a time. There's people like Bessie in South Africa.
Mhm,
She's done so much. And they encourage me. They really do
mhm.
encourage me. And yeah, I think just the whole crew in those days at ZBC and the late Tichireketa
Yes,
and
yes.
Anandokas Chibanda,
Mhm.
so all those people, they'll give you, because you'd sit there and they'll be like on air and they're
Yes.
just so comfortable. So you look at it and you say, okay, what can I do to make it
Yeah.
that way? So also I'm trying, like with 3K TV, we've basically got raw talent that has
Yeah.
come on board, and very few who've been on TV before.
Yeah.
But it's good when you see these people from when we started, from the first week to now week 7, the
Mhm.
growth that is there. So it's really very encouraging. It's very
And
encouraging.
how
Yeah.
do you measure your viewership? I'm sure you can, people calling and all that stuff, but how do you measure your viewership the past 7 weeks since you've been on air?
Okay, the viewership has been tremendous. So
Mhm.
once again, I go back to DSTV. So you see,
Okay.
DSTV have everything in place. So
Yeah.
they actually know, because through subscription, remember
Oh,
DSTV is through
yes.
subscription,
Mhm.
and they can actually go onto each time slot and say at 7:30, the programs that had so many people were this
Mhm.
program or that program. So they're not just on 3K TV only, but remember all the DSTV channels. So they can actually
Wow.
they've got that they can tell that, okay, this program is doing well, this program is not doing well, etc.
Mhm.
So also in Zimbabwe we do have ZAMPs,
Mhm.
but obviously ZAMPs had just been dealing with ZBC. So we'll
That's what I was
see
gonna
probably
say. Mhm.
we'll see at the end of a year how ZAMPs will have fared,
Yeah.
and what they will say as well about us. But the competition is coming in. I think the other TV stations, I've heard that the other TV station, the one TV station, is probably going to be on air this month or first beginning of next month. So competition is there, and it's
Mhm.
just an exciting time. But as far as I'm
Competition is
concerned,
good.
it's not but it's not competition, because we all want the best for
Yeah.
Zimbabwe. We don't want people to say, you know what, in Zimbabwe there's so many channels and I can
Yeah.
chop and change.
Well,
Is it
it's
Amazon
competition,
Prime?
yes.
Is it next? Is Yeah,
It's
but we can
competition
still
because
work
I
together.
wanna be able to say this channel is just not, it's not offering me what I really want. You have a wider spectrum, and if you have all those things happening, you've got entertainment, you've got educational, you got news zenyu kuti munenge muchipresenta news zenyu zvakaita sei, because you get tired of the same thing that you've been watching past 45 years. So
Yeah.
all those things, they matter. And I wish you good luck. And Christine, so proud of you to see you grow, and now bigger challenges as you grow, as you age. And we're proud of you. And I see most of my friend journalists vari kuteera apa vari kuti well done. Asina Sekai, well done Christine, we will check it out. Kazina Sharon asika life ari kunakidzwa nenyaya kazita kacho we really hope kalife kachihapena takatichida kuzviona. But I mean, we give you suggestions, whatever. Tisuma viewers, actually, in a way, we might not be there because a lot of my followers are pretty much in the diaspora. But some, like when Sekai, they are in Zimbabwe, and we want to see you grow and to see 3K TV rise and rise, and then to see you. Where is Christine now? She owns this TV station herself.
Yeah, amen.
You know what I'm
Amen.
saying? And things
I know what
happen,
to
and
say.
we're proud of you.
Mm.
Aiwa,
Yes.
tatoona kuti 1 hour yedu yatopera sekuseka tinzwa nyaya dzatakachitaurirwa nasawira wedu Christine Nyirenda, and I'm glad you all appreciate and support what she is doing, what they are doing, and we're looking forward to see bigger and better stuff as she grows with her company, with the company, and what broadcasting, what they are doing, hoping that they will bring more interesting guests, more interesting programming, more related, which people can relate to, instead of just the usual people are tired. Right now, there is no broadcasting in Zimbabwe, really anything to talk
Absolutely.
about. Yeah. So we are happy for you, and congratulations. Vanhu vari
Thank you.
kutiteera tinokutendai. Thanks. Josephine Nyirenda is big sister kuna Chrissy. Yes, she's here in Canada. She is in Toronto, in Hamilton. So yes,
Hamilton.
yes, yes, we are there with you, giving you tuma loves netuma likes for Christine. Thank you so much. Saka vanhu vese moiva nezuva rakanaka, vari kuZimbabwe mochirara zvakanaka, vari kuLondon morara zvakanaka, isusu vari kuno Canada tichiswera zvakanaka. And thank you very much. Ndini Sangwa Dzispiwe Kachidza Mapfumo.